The story begins with a man named Duffy, who goes to a bar and notices some men gambling. He decides to join them for a game but doesn't have any money to bet, so he puts his watch on the line. After a few rounds, Duffy wins against all of them. Angered by their loss, the men attack Duffy, but Duffy, being no novice, quickly defeats them. Meanwhile, Max, who was released from jail 2 days earlier, notices Duffy. After leaving the bar, Duffy goes to a hotel since he has no home of his own. Duffy is actually an ex-Marine commando who lost many comrades in Afghanistan, with only he and his friend Boca surviving. The next morning, Max visits Duffy at his hotel. Though initially uninterested in talking to Max, Duffy agrees to listen after Max offers to buy him a meal. They go to a restaurant where Max praises Duffy's abilities and suggests they could make a lot of money together. Duffy is skeptical, but Max is ready to prove his point. They meet a man named Donald, who organizes street fights. After the first fight, Donald gives an open challenge to anyone present to fight his fighter. When he notices Duffy, he realizes Max has brought him for a fight. Initially, Duffy refuses, but when everyone starts mocking him, he finally agrees and easily defeats Donald's fighter. Suddenly, they hear police sirens and quickly leave with their earnings. On the way, Max asks Duffy about his living situation, and upon hearing Duffy's plight, Max offers to have him stay at his sister Rachel's house. When they arrive at Rachel's house, they find her throwing out her boyfriend. A fight ensues between Rachel and her boyfriend, and Duffy intervenes, beating up the boyfriend. Rachel is a widow living with her daughter. The next day, Max meets with a mafia boss named Parker, to whom Max owes a significant debt. To pay off this debt, Max plans to have Duffy fight Parker's fighter. Parker agrees immediately, confident in his powerful fighters. Meanwhile, Duffy is cleaning the house when Rachel and her daughter return. Rachel is pleased to see Duffy's good behavior. That night, Duffy has dinner with Rachel and her daughter, and Max joins them later, explaining the situation with Parker. Duffy agrees to fight only to help Max. Parker is interrogating Rachel's boyfriend, Rig, who had stolen a lot of Parker's money before leaving his gang. Corrupt police officer Lynx also interrogates Rig and learns that he hid the money at Rachel's house. Lynx kills Rig and orders Parker to find Rig's girlfriend quickly. The next day, Max and Duffy arrive at the arena for the fight, where girls are already fighting. Lynx is also present. Before Duffy's match, Donald warns everyone not to underestimate Duffy. Despite the warning, Duffy easily defeats his opponent. After the match, as Max and Duffy are about to leave, Parker challenges them to fight his best man, Ford. Max knows Ford is very powerful and initially refuses, but Parker offers triple the money. Duffy demands 5 times the money, and Parker agrees. During the fight, Ford initially dominates, but Duffy gets flashbacks of the Afghanistan war, which makes him fight fiercely and defeat Ford. Max and Duffy return home, elated. Max thanks God for bringing Duffy into his life, knowing he wouldn't have been able to pay off Parker's debt without him. The next day, Parker gives Lynx Rachel's address. Soon after, a police team arrives at Rachel's house. They search for Rig's stolen money but find nothing. Lynx threatens Rachel to return all the money within a week or face dire consequences. Max and Duffy learn about the police raid when they return home. Rachel insists she knows nothing about the money. Max realizes the police are working for Parker and takes Duffy to meet Parker. Parker explains that the money belongs to even more dangerous people and that if the money isn't found, they are all in trouble. As they leave Parker's office, they encounter Lynx, increasing Max's anxiety. Duffy calms him, saying he's ready to fight once more to save Rachel and her daughter. Later, Rachel finds Rig's bag full of money hidden in the trash. Her daughter had hidden it there out of frustration with Rig. Meanwhile, Donald plans a big fight for Duffy, hoping to use the winnings to pay off Parker's debt and save Rachel. Donald demands a 30% share of the earnings. The next day, Donald informs Parker of Max's offer and provokes Parker into agreeing to another fight. That evening, a fight is organized where wealthy people gather to place bets. Lynx and Parker are confident that Duffy will lose, But Lynx warns that if Duffy wins, Parker will have to pay all the money. But then Parker said, "No, no, darling, not so soon." Told Lynx, "I have a full dossier on all your illegal activities, with all the evidence. I'll turn it over to your seniors." Elsewhere, Donald instructed Duffy to win the fight at any cost because he had placed a $5 million bet on his victory. This time, Duffy was up against a police officer. The fight didn't last long, and Duffy easily defeated the officer, causing a stampede. Taking advantage of the chaos, Max and Duffy escaped. On the way, Max called Rachel to pack their belongings. Rachel also informed Max about the bag, but Max told her not to overthink it, just to pack everything and get ready to leave the city. Shortly after, when Max arrived home to pick up Rachel, a police car attacked them, and a bullet hit Rachel's daughter. Max immediately called an ambulance and sent her to the hospital. After the ambulance left, Max decided to end all the troubles. Meanwhile, Donald was about to flee with all the fight money when one of Lynx's men shot him and took all the money. A little later, Duffy and Max met Duffy's friend Boca and explained the situation. Duffy asked Boca to arrange weapons, but Boca said, "Why arrange them? All the weapons are in the car." He also wanted to join them in the fight, to which Duffy flatly refused. However, since Duffy had saved his life many times in Afghanistan, Boca insisted, "Brother, no matter what happens, I'm coming with you." After that, the three of them went straight to Parker's office, where Parker told them that Lynx and his men were coming there to attack him. As soon as he said that, Lynx and his men launched a fierce attack on them. In the midst of the fight, Lynx shot Parker. He then captured Max and demanded that Duffy drop his weapons. However, Max cleverly managed to shoot Lynx instead. The three of them managed to eliminate all their enemies, but Boca was killed in the fight. The next morning, Max went to the hospital to meet his sister, where his daughter, after regaining consciousness, was sent back home. At home, Rachel found a letter written by Duffy, in which he thanked them for keeping him at their place for so long and advised them to use the money found in the bag wisely. We also learned that the two had grown very close to each other because, in the last lines of his letter, he promised that he would return soon and marry her.